Hey there, in today's video I'm showing you how to make some cozy fall DIYs using sweaters. Welcome to CreArtive by Nature, DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. For our first DIY, I'm going to be using this wood pumpkin, and I've got mine from Dollarama. You can pick them up at Dollar Tree as well, and you'll also need an old sweater. You can use any kind of sweater you like. I really like this one because of the colors and the pattern. You'll want to flip the sweater upside down and then figure out which way you want to use your panel. Now, as you can see, I had done some experimenting on this pumpkin panel already, and I wanted to cover that up. So I'm placing the two wrong sides together, and then using a Sharpie, I am going to outline around my pumpkin, and then that will give me a guide as to what I need to cut out. So I'm using my good fabric scissors and I'm cutting around my outline, and as you can see there, I am cutting out about a centimeter away from my outline that I drew. That would give me a little bit of wiggle room if I make a mistake or anything. Save that sweater for some other projects. I'm going to place my sweater over top of the pumpkin panel that I wanted to cover up, and then I'm going to attach this using some hot glue. Now you could use some wet glue. Tacky glue would actually work really well, but I just wanted to be quick about this, so I'm using my hot glue. So I'm just going around the edge and then I'm patting down my sweater into the glue. I'm just going to reach inside here with my glue gun and attach a little bit of hot glue, and that'll prevent the sweater from slipping, and then continue to glue down my edges. Once the sweater is glued into place, you can then trim off the excess. Now I should have done this step before I put the sweater on, but I just wasn't thinking about this. So I am applying some gel walnut stain put out by Decor, and I'm applying it to the stem and the edges of my pumpkin wood panel. And it would have been easier if I did that before I applied the sweater, but yeah, sometimes we make those mistakes. So I'm using a makeup sponge to apply the paint or the stain to the edge of our pumpkin and allow it to dry. So I noticed that some of my edges were lifting, so I'm just going to go in with my glue gun and just pat those down just to make sure they stay in place and my sweater doesn't fray. So you could leave the pumpkin stem as is, but I love to add a touch of nature, and I decided to cover up my stem with some birch bark. I'm just going to trim it down, and then using some hot glue, I am going to attach my birch bark pieces to the stem. You will want to press and hold the birch bark till the glue sets. Once your bark is in place, you can then trim off the excess. I like to use some wire cutters as it cuts through the bark really, really well. And I'm just going to remove all those extra bits. I really like that rustic look the bark gives. So now I need to add a hanger. I am going to use some jute twine, and I'm just forming a loop, tying a knot, and then I'm going to add some glue to the hole and then press my knot into that hole. That will help really secure our hanger into place. And just as an added touch, I am adding some hot glue over the twine and then just spreading that glue out, and that'll really help hold everything in place. Now it's time to decorate. I am again using that really nice jute twine, and I'm just making a really relaxed loopy bow and adding some extra tails. Using a wire, I'm going to just use it like a twist tie and just bend the wire down just so it doesn't poke out, and it allows it to sit flatter on the surface. Here I have some leaves from my stash. I'm going to glue those into place. I also have a pine cone and some tendrils, and I'm just going to layer everything at the base of our stem just to help hide the seam as well as give it a nice decorative touch. Some paper flowers would be really pretty for this project as well, and you can use just anything you'd like to suit your home decor. Once you have all your decorative elements in place, it is then time to hang it on your wall. I think this is such a beautiful and cozy look for the fall season. I'm really happy with how well this turned out. For our next sweater project, you're going to need 3 cylinder vases in different sizes, and you will need some sleeves from some old sweaters. Now, this is a project I've seen done lots, but I wanted to just share my little flair that I like to do. So I'm just cutting some sleeves off of 3 different types of sweaters. And then I am going to figure out which sweater I want to place on which vase, and I'm going to slip these sleeves over top of the vases. Now I really liked this brown one, and it's got a nice thick and chunky cuff. I'm just folding that over, and then I'm going to trim off the excess on the bottom of the vase. So for a little bit of a different look, I am going to have the cuff of this particular sweater sleeve on the bottom. And then I'm going to trim off just some of the excess. I'm going to tuck the extra bit on the inside of this vase, and then I'm going to glue it into place using my hot glue gun. This will just give a bit of a different look from the other one, and I really like how this one turned out. So I've decided to go in and add a touch of hot glue to the bottom of the brown sweater vase, and that'll help just hold that sweater sleeve into place. Again, just trim off the excess and then it will sit flat on your surface. So for the fall season, I have actually really liked gray mixed with some beige and brown and a few other colors, and I thought this sweater sleeve would be great. It's also a nice thin one, and I like the little dots that are on the pattern. I'm just going to again roll over the cuff and then trim off the excess and glue into place if you feel it's needed. So our vases are all covered with the sweaters, and now it's time to fill them. I have these beautiful feathers that have got that nice brown and beige color, and I extended the stems by adding some twigs. I loved these golden yellow florals that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to use that branch that I foraged from a nature walk, and I'm just going to add these to the gray vase. I thought the contrast of the golden yellow with the gray was so beautiful. And now I've got these gorgeous cotton stems again that I picked up from Dollar Tree. They're just so beautiful. I added those to the brown vase, and then I'm going to go in with these branches and add them to the cotton stems. As you can see, there's a really pretty golden yellow lichen that matches my florals. Everything here ties together really well, and I love this natural rustic look. Here they are all put together with some other natural elements that I had in my home. I really like the cozy look that these vases give to my fall decor. For this next DIY, you'll need a styrofoam wreath and some scraps of your sweater pieces. I'm using the scraps that are left from my projects that I've done already, and I'm going to cut them down into pieces that are the size that you need to wrap around our wreath. Now, this project is inspired by something that I had seen on Pinterest, but I wanted to give it my own unique spin. So once you have your sweater pieces all cut down, you can start to glue these sweater pieces onto our wreath form using some hot glue. I am choosing which side I want to be my back, and that's where you're going to have the seams for your sweater pieces as shown. So just continue to use some hot glue. We will actually use quite a bit, and then you will just continue to add your pieces. So as you can see here, I've left a gap between my gray and beige sweater pieces as I am going to be adding something different in those spots. Continue to layer and add all the different textures and patterns and colors of your sweaters until you have the coverage that you like. Okay, so now the touch that I am really excited about, and that is adding some birch bark. I have some thinner pieces of birch bark, again, that I've foraged, and I am going to glue these into place in those spots that I left blank. So I'm using quite a bit of hot glue, and I'm pressing and holding it in place. And then I am going to actually use some jute twine to help hold my glue in place till it sets. So I covered each of my section with the birch bark and the glue has all set. So I'm going to trim off that jute twine that I used to help set the glue. You could leave that in place if you want, but I didn't want that. I'm actually going to be using something different. But before I show you that, I decided that I'm going to go in and add just a bit more texture to my piece by adding some pieces of my birch bark that have a bit more of a rustic look and have a lot more texture. I'm going to glue them into place, and then I'm just going to help to hold it till set. These pieces of birch bark are actually quite thin, so I didn't have to hold on to them for very long. Once I have all that decorated, I am then going to use some chunky yarn that matches my wreath. I'm going to tie it on with a knot, as you can see here, and then I'm going to wrap around my wreath very sporadically, but I'm going to make sure I do get it somewhat tight. This is going to help hold my sweater pieces and my birch bark into place, as well as give it more texture. Once I get all the way around, I am then going to tie it off in a knot on the back side of the wreath. I'm going ahead and doing the same with this brown chunky yarn that I had. It looks really good with the brown sweater that I used, and again the same thing, just wrapping it sporadically. I decided not to use the cream chunky yarn as it kind of conflicted with the birch bark. So here I figured out where the top of my wreath is going to be, and then using a thick gauged florist wire, I am creating a hook. I'm just bending my two pieces on the side, and then I'm going to poke it through the sweater into my wreath and then bend it up and add a dab of hot glue to help hold that into place. And there, our wreath is ready to be hung. I think it turned out so well. I love all the textural elements in this piece. Definitely has that rustic cozy look that I wanted for my fall decor. So as always, I love to know which one was your favorite or whether or not you liked them all by leaving a comment down below. Here's some more fall inspiration for you to check out. I want to thank you all so much for being here today. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.